Infused by Caitlin, we spilling the tea. From Bravo to pop culture, got opinions for free. White refrigerator, buy a wig, we scream. It's all happening like a mid-season dream. That's my opinion, yeah, I said what I said. Shady confessional, glam toast to my head. Champagne and tea, pour up the truth. Reality bites and we came with the proof. We're all besties here, no lies, no filter. Reading these shows like a guilty pleasure scripture. Cameras up in the drama for days. Hit play now to hear what your besties gotta say. I'm not really sure what I've done to you. I'm not really sure what I've done to you. I'm not really sure what I've done to you. But I'll take a Pinot Grigio. I'm not really sure what I've done to you.
Hi, besties. Thank you for joining me today. It's Wednesday, July 30th. God, is the summer almost over? I refuse to believe it. But I am so glad you're here today. We are recapping the Valley Season 2 Reunion Part 1. And can I tell y'all something before we get started? Very embarrassing that happened to me. Remember how I said I was doing Sculptura on last Friday? I was very anxious because y'all, I didn't want to, be doing filler or doing anything crazy to my face because I feel like I'm still relatively young. And, I just wanted to be transparent about doing anything because I feel like people aren't transparent enough. They won't really say what they get done. And Sculptura is something that people don't talk about a lot. And it's actually a really great alternative to doing the fillers and stuff because it's not a filler. And it's basically because your body stops producing collagen at 30. It literally is an injection that stimulates your body or causes your body to stimulate, start producing collagen, whatever. Anyway, so I was anxious about it. And I knew there would be some swelling and I didn't know what to expect. And the most I've ever done to my face or anything is Botox, right? So I just am Googling, okay, what more can I be doing to really ensure that I, have the least amount of swelling afterward? I had bought like face ice pack things and I acted like I was having a facelift. Let's be so real. Anyway, so I buy that and I'm like, I get Arnica and I get the Arnica Montana supplements and I do all that. And I had done my research like crazy before I booked this. A few days before, I see the worst horror pictures of people with hematomas, with insane swelling. And I got kind of panicked and I was like, it's going to be fine, Caitlin. It's going to be fine. So I go ahead and tell my girl. And by the way, the place I go here in Denver, if you live in the area, well, I'll even tell you this. I go to AOB Med Spa. I go to a nurse practitioner. So she is very, licensed, did all of her things. And I tell her, okay, here's what I'm nervous about. And she was like, okay, we're good. This is what's up. Jessica, she was awesome. So I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I'm good. This is not a big deal. I'm not getting filler. I'm not going to come out looking like the jigsaw puppet. I'm going to be fine. So she kind of lays me back and she starts doing it. And I'm like, okay, we're good. And then, I don't want to get too graphic if someone's squeamish. I'll just say I wasn't expecting in my mind, I guess, like to feel kind of the needle moving underneath my skin on my face, which, is fine because there was lidocaine mixed in with it. So it's not even like it hurt that bad. But suddenly my chest starts getting warm and I start getting queasy. You guys, after she finished one side of my face, I finally had to go, I'm not feeling very good. I am laying back in a chair. I started to faint. No good reason. It was not that painful. I'm telling you, it wasn't from pain. It wasn't. She's first rubbing alcohol under my nose, and I must have been very pale because she's like, okay, we're going to tip you all the way back and I'm going to get the smelling salts. Girl had to practically shove it up my nose at this point. And I finally start and I'm sweating. I'm like, oh my God, I have given birth. This is not that big of a deal. I was fine. It did not hurt that bad. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see I do not look crazy. Um, I'm the only annoying part of all of it is that you have to massage your face 5 times a day for 5 minutes, 5 days after the procedure. It's hardly, are we really calling it a procedure? Whatever. Anyway, I will update you with how it turned out. You don't see the effects for like 6 to 8 weeks, but listen, I will do anything that is not going to have me looking crazy or like destroying my skin, body, whatever. That's just like minimal, preventative, that type of thing. I could not believe I was just like, what is wrong with me? And she was like, yeah, this actually happens often. I guess they'd had a guy literally faint in their lobby just from getting Botox. And I was like, of course it was a man. Of course a man fainted from Botox. And here I am. And I literally then almost fainted again, laying down. Explain this to me. Okay. It wasn't even just, I didn't have even just like a vasovagal reaction. I literally, my ears were plugging up. And I'm not scared of needles. So I don't know what happened, but don't let that deter you if you're interested in it. I think I had just psyched myself out and I think I'm just constantly in this maybe state of slight panic that pushed me over the edge. Sorry, I find it hilarious because all I could keep saying was, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed because it was embarrassing. Anyway, okay. Not as embarrassing as it is to be Jax Taylor, though. Now, is it? No. Mm-mm. I have pages upon pages of notes. So let's go ahead and jump on into this. Okay, I say this often. Let me get to the housekeeping here. Yes, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is coming. I am trying to basically get all of the episodes recorded and release them all at the same time so that I'm not like, okay, well, here's episode 6. Wait a few days. Here's 7. I just want to give you all of them at the same time. So they are coming. If you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and like the video, subscribe to my cute little channel, join the conversation because there's a lot to be said here. And if you're a Love Island USA fan, hit me up because my friends, this is a wild time. We're basically experiencing almost the Scandival currently of Love Island USA, but it didn't involve cheating. So, talk to me about it at some point, please, because it's insane. Okay. All right. So, we're opening with everyone, having their banter, chit chat. Andy using a banana as a phone. Jesse is absolutely wearing a women's coat. I know that because that's a coat I would absolutely consider wearing. It absolutely reminds me of something Cher Horowitz from Clueless would have worn. And that's how I know this is absolutely a women's coat. And I believe Jesse could fit in a women's coat. That's not a slight against him. That's just what I believe to be a fact. I haven't seen this man in person, but that's what I believe, in my opinion. We are starting the reunion and the flashback to Andy asking Jax if he and Brittany are going to be getting a prenup at the Vanderpump Rules reunion and him saying no, because we're going to be together forever as she's and that's echoing ominously with her saying, yes. Oh gosh, how times change, don't they? And it cuts immediately to her flubbing this saying. A for effort there, Brittany, but she's saying she wouldn't touch Jax's dirty D with a 10-inch pole. I think you meant 10 foot, but we get the idea, right? Okay. Tonight will be the longest Brittany has spent in time with Jax in this last year. And sadly, Michelle had moved in with Aaron not long before this reunion was taped, and they are, in fact, now broken up. But do you notice when Michelle says that she and Aaron have Isabella 50% of the time that Jax mutters over at Jesse, that's not true? And how the freaking heck, heck would you know that, Jax Taylor? You are not in their relationship. Ooh, and Kristen is 33 weeks while Nia is 39 weeks filming this reunion. The fact that Nia does not get the pregnancy nose, that is just further proof. Miss USA over there, my God, I looked like Shrek. That is not an exaggeration. My nose was so goddamn swollen. Okay, you guys, that is not fair. And Janet claims, by the way, that it was Adderall and Pilates that helped her lose all this baby weight. And we all know what Adderall used to typically mean for the Vanderpump Rules cast. So, as someone, Janet, who has been a lifelong VPR fan, that was an interesting choice of words. Appreciate the honesty, though. We open fully on all of this with Kristen Mariposa Louise Doty being the voice of reason this season. And how it's crazy that this is the case after all the years with our, well, little Mariposa Doty. But when Andy brings up that she called herself an empath, Janet, of course, rolls her eyes so hard. I'm surprised she did not get the chance to snap a photo of her own brain. I love how Kristen makes a point immediately, though, to apologize to Janet for what she said in Hawaii on the boat. You know, when she was like, I'm going to knock her out. And then also says she's sorry for calling. Why do I still find this funny? I think I find it funny because I don't believe this about Janet. Okay. I think that's why I find this funny. But she apologizes to her for calling her a whore because obviously that's not true. We shouldn't be calling our friends or frenemies whores. But you know what I mean? Which that does actually make Janet laugh. And see, Janet, this is it right here. This simple, very simple reaction to Kristen apologizing to you has me softening to you so much more. All you have had to do was this. She just goes, thank you. I appreciate the apology. And she simply smiled at her. That is all it takes. I will say this until I'm blue in the face, as blue as the sweatshirt I am wearing right now. The drama on reality TV is in the resolution. It's not about who can hold a grudge the longest, because we do that in real life. In fact, in real life, we are not forced into the room typically with the one friend we had that falling out with that, we're forced to find ways to fix it with. If you'd allow that in with the type of drama you've experienced with her, she didn't completely destroy your life, okay? Then you would realize it's actually a gift. You get to resolve things with her and with other people within your friend group that you're kind of forced to, and then you get paid to do it at the same time. Most people don't get that opportunity to also watch themselves back and rewatch these interactions and inciting moments that caused the fallouts to begin with. And it is a shame and very frustrating when you throw those moments and those opportunities away, Janet. Okay. Andy asks how far along Brittany and Jax are in their divorce, and Brittany says, hopefully soon. But adds, he called me the other day and said that he didn't know if he was going to get kicked off the show, so he was prolonging it in case he needed to get alimony from me. Jax only says that that's somewhat true. Okay. That tells me all I really need to know, which is that it's all the way true. I mean, I'm going to be cussing a lot this episode, my friends, so cover the baby's ears, okay? This fucking loser will do anything to not get a job. He could literally go, I don't know, get your real estate license, try and go get a contractor's license. I don't know. You could do a multitude of things to get a real job that pays well. But no, you'd rather go after Brittany for money while she's working and raising your shared child. And this is where I want to make a point here. This is very different from the type of situation where a woman is married to a man, they start raising a family, and she has stopped working and ended her own career to raise a family while her husband continues to work. And her raising the family and keeping up the household has been supporting her husband working. And then when they get divorced, she goes for alimony because she didn't have a career any longer. She has no work history any longer and has to start from scratch while likely still having full physical custody of those children as the father is working full time. That is different because it's like, how is she supposed to earn a living while doing all of that after having no recent job history, typically in multiple years? And you know what? These two have the same job history. The problem is that Ajax effed that whole thing up. That's on him. That's not on Brittany. Brittany makes him clarify what he said if he's claiming it's only what he somewhat said to her, but he claims he was only talking about the podcast feed. Sir, stop. We are not even 5 minutes into taping this reunion, and you're already starting. I mean, my God. She's denying that's what he said. And because this Crisco greased pan of a man knows he's caught and still cannot just admit the truth or that he's wrong and lying, he just goes, okay, well, then we'll just say that's what I said. You are so insufferable, Jax. Also, side note, I gotta point this out. Just at this point, noticed Jesse Lolly's pants. Is he wearing the curtains from the elderly woman's home he just got the sale on because it was foreclosed on as she was transitioning into the nursing home? What is happening here? What are those? That is worse than the dress that, God bless, Kim Kardashian wore to the Met Gala when she was very pregnant, which I still feel terrible for her. And mind you, I am talking about Kim Kardashian, who is a very difficult person to feel bad for. Okay, let me start there. But I still feel bad for her for how she was treated after her Met Gala appearance when she was incredibly pregnant. So, anywho, I don't feel bad for Jessie, though. Okay. And on that note, we do move over to Michelle and Jesse's divorce. And, I thought they were doing better. I guess not. They keep going back and forth about who was trying to win and who wasn't, with him pointing out that she has said that no matter what she does, everyone loves him and just finds her to be a cold-hearted biatch. I don't know. Neither one of you do yourselves any favors. I don't know that everyone loves Jesse. He has redeeming moments. I'll give him that because I've had many moments with him throughout the season that I was like, oh my God, am I actually like not loathing Mr. Lolly right now? And then he'll do something very quickly that I'm like, no, I loathe him. I loathe Mr. Lolly. It's okay. So Michelle, really, it's not Jesse's fault at this point if people have an issue with you. Okay. I'm sorry, baby. We're now on to Kristen's successful pregnancy. Again, I just want to congratulate them so much over and over. But she talks about how she has felt pregnant for so long at this point, it'll almost be weird to not be pregnant when she has that baby girl. And she has, as we know, given birth at this point. But I know that feeling. Ooh-wee. You just are like, this is my state of being forever. This is how I am. Especially how weird it is when you stop feeling movement inside of your body. Anyway, the IUI really helped them get pregnant. She said it increased their chances by about 10%. And it seems like that's all they really needed. They're not worrying about planning this wedding until after the baby comes. And I just personally see them eloping and, I don't know, being all cool like that. Janet is asked how she thinks Kristen will be as a mom. And she actually says she thinks Kristen will be the best mom because she's the best and most loving dog mom in the world. So that's the litmus test. Anyway, no, genuinely, I believe Kristen will be a great mom because she knows, I think one of the ways you can tell, and I think especially being a mom myself, and this is something you learn so much. It's unreal the way your brain changes in a short period of time. But I think because Kristen knows how to make mistakes and not self-punish for herself relentlessly, and she can at least from what it appears, she seems as though she can let her mistakes go. If you're a parent, you know what I mean. And if you're not, I'll try and explain further because no matter what, oh my gosh, I got makeup on my new sweatshirt. Damn it. Anyway, no matter what, shit is gonna happen, whether it is actually your fault or not. That's just the way it goes. And there's so much guilt in being a parent because the responsibility is solely yours. And then there's the mom shaming, the dad shaming, all of it. There's so much. Oh my gosh. I just went to the outlet malls and got myself a brand new Lululemon sweatshirt. I did not pay full price because I would never for Lululemon. So sorry, but I'm not obsessed with their leggings. I feel like I can see my cellulite and my underwear through them, and that is not a great pair of leggings for me. So love you so much, Lulu. Love your sweatshirts, but until you fix that. Anyway, so Anyway, it's that guilt, and you're already judged so harshly on the outside. Think about how many times you've looked at a parent when they're in public, when their child's like flipping out, and you're like, oh, they don't have control of them, and you can't really help it sometimes, especially if you're not a parent yet or just not a parent at all. So yeah, it's the fact that she seems to be able to give herself grace and gives a lot of people so much grace. That's part of why I think she's going to be great. Also, she's kind of just a hippie. She's laid back enough. She'll let that little girl play in the dirt, be a kid. Anyway, that was at least nice of Janet to say that. So, and we've got our 4 under 4 pair over there. And Danny is needing very much so to go ahead and get a vasectomy as soon as this child enters the world. And that's brought up. So this is the last for Nia and Danny. And this is when Brittany says Jax definitely needs to get one. And then goes, he's going to have 20 baby mamas if he doesn't. So Andy asks him if he uses birth control, which confuses Jax. He's that hamster up there on that wheel is like, what? Ah, give me a breather for a second. It hurts. I got a stitch in my side. Condoms. You addle-pated wax figure of a human, Jax. He doesn't use condoms. Oh my God. Which Brittany's, I can't. This is when Brittany says he's disgusting and that she wouldn't touch that dirty dick with a 10-inch pole. Again, 10 inches is far too short for someone like that. You know what? Maybe that is on point because maybe he's not that, Okay. So, all right. Maybe he's not that long. So then maybe a 10-inch pole would suffice. So maybe it was a double burn, but I don't think Brittany is that wise to the world on that one and intended that way. But maybe you could take that one for yourself and run with it, Brittany. But Jax, being the Jax hole he is, says it's not what she was saying 4 months ago when they were at the aquarium and then at Hooters. Cool. So you took your kid to the aquarium and then to Hooters. Yeah, I hear they have great wings, but for fuck's sake. Anyway, he claims that she asked him, that Brittany did, if they should hook up one last time. He also says she was drunk, as she finds it very doubtful that she said that. I don't know. I hate to say it, but part of me kind of believes Brittany did say this. And whatever. Anywho, I don't even want to think about it. It's disgusting. But she says that now that she knows everything he's got going on down there, okay, that there is no possible way she'd be touching him. And now Jax is going to pull out his whataboutisms by saying she was hooking up with a guy who hooks up with porn stars, as she reminds him he does too, including OnlyFans models. Then he claims there are condoms all over the floor at her place, but she's like, hey, at least I use them. Exactly. Because be so fucking for real, okay? I'm sorry. Truly, it's one. If sometimes things happen, okay? I'm not judging you. It really. And I'm not even judging you if it's happened more than once. But let me put it this way, my friends. You only get one body. All right. And you only get one chance at keeping this one body in a condition that you would like to be able to continue using it in. And if you don't do something as simple as using a condom, then you're telling yourself and your body that you don't care what happens to it. And you don't care if it continues to function properly or in a fun way. Okay. Truly, have all the sex you want. I support you enjoying yourself with whomever, however you want. I also support your health, my friends. I do. And if you're not in a monogamous relationship of some kind or in some kind of partnership that you can truly trust that person that you're doing all this with, then just look after your own body, because guess what? No one else is going to do that for you. Not in the way you will. Okay. Anywho, that's my PSA for the day, because we teach safe sex here, not abstinence. It's sad to move over to Michelle and Aaron again and the idea of marriage and babies for them, knowing that they are in fact broken up now. But the divorce with her and Jesse is what Andy moves on to. And Michelle says the tipping point for her in wanting to get divorced and separating wasn't any one thing. It was the daily diminishing her and putting her down. And I'm going to tell you, there are multiple ways throughout this reunion, just this part one, that I am seeing how he does this. Okay. But I'll point them out when they come up. When Andy asks Jesse if he and Michelle have come to a better place, at least in regard to co-parenting that little cutie patootie Isabella, that little girl is so gorgeous. And I hate to say it, I do. Jesse Lawley has some gorgeous eyelashes. He does, and Isabella got them. She did. Why am I talking like that? Anyway, he claims that Michelle weaponizes Isabella, which of course she very aggressively denies. But his defense to her is that she needs to read comments online. You weaponize your daughter, which thankfully here, Andy points out that the comments from viewers and fans have nothing to do with her or what she is or isn't doing. And, really, Jesse, she has no control over what these people say. Jesse then tells Michelle to explain what she said to his mother, which she says that she told his mother, if you are not going to allow Isabella to see my mother, who is going to die, she will not be flying to Boston for Christmas and spending a week in Boston. And Jesse adds that Michelle ended the sentence with ever again, which Michelle acknowledges. Jesse, this was disgusting on your end. And it makes sense to me why you're sitting next to Jax. You will have a multitude of Christmases and holidays as far as you and your parents know when it comes to spending time with Isabella. Is every day guaranteed? No, tomorrow is not guaranteed. I'm 36 and my own tomorrow is not guaranteed. However, there was a definitive end coming very soon when it came to Isabella being able to continue spending physical time on this earth with her maternal grandmother. In other words, her grandmother was dying, you absolute twat. The lack of compassion and empathy is astounding from you, Jesse, and the way your child will know you were so belligerent regarding this someday. Oh, buddy. You will and should have to answer for this to her, and it will and should be embarrassing, shameful, and should make you want to hide out in the corner where you belong in your stupid little ugly pants and fur coat, which don't even get me started. Jesse doesn't get it, though, thinking this was her, as in Michelle weaponizing Isabella, but then brings up Michelle going to Italy for 2 weeks and how she had this plan for her sister to take cute little Izzy. I don't even know that that's her nickname. I just wanted to call her that. And then for him to take her the next week. I'm sorry, is Michelle not allowed to go on one vacation simply because her mother is dying? And listen to the way I'm explaining this before you're like, whoa, Caitlin, what? She's not allowed to take one vacation. The stress, the constant oh my gosh, okay, I guarantee you her mother was saying to her, go on the vacation. And y'all know I'm not the biggest fan of Michelle, but this is such a toxic, shitty way of thinking that she was not allowed to have a moment to breathe and enjoy her life for a second. Because guess what? The second her mother passed, that's all it was going to be for her for a very long time. You're a freaking asshole, Jesse. Jesse then tries to take the ownership of hiring a behavioral therapist who was going to help them figure out how to speak with their 4-year-old on mortality. The fact that her grandmother was passing away soon. When Michelle clarifies, no, that was a we thing. I mean, Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I really thought that these two were in a better place, and now I'm exhausted from them all over again. Oh my God. But Michelle tells him that the therapist did, in fact, have to inform him he needed to allow Isabella to see her grandmother and to also give Michelle grace, which she says Jesse did not do. And this is something he is going to do every single time she is telling the truth, giving him a fact, and he doesn't like the fact. Okay. Because it's very clear he's well aware and recalls that this is the truth. Because he's just, he did this. I'm telling you, I just feel it in my bones that he was a downright piece of no good, dirty shit to her during this, because all he does is concede by going, okay. And he dismisses her after he looks her in the eyes and goes, okay. And gives this bitchy, back to the person who matters, to Andy. You're here, but let's bring it back over to Andy in this way that's like, Andy, I'm so sorry for the interruption, the outburst from my ex-wife over there. She can't seem to control herself. Please, I'm so sorry, sir, for the interruption. Continue. That's what it gives. He looks at her and immediately dismisses her. Ooh, you had me fooled for a minute there, Jesse. You did. You sure did. Okay. The divorce status for Michelle and Jesse is, well, they have a custody agreement. She's retained an eternity. It's probably how long this divorce is going to take, but she's retained an attorney while he hasn't. And that should tell you everything you also need to know about Jesse's current financial situation. Because a guy like Jesse, he will gladly throw money at a problem and tell everyone he likes to just throw money at any minor inconvenience. So an issue like this, he would absolutely throw money at it if he had the money. And guess what? I don't think he does. Period. Michelle says that Jesse thinks he knows the law, so that's why he's representing himself. I like to use legal jargon in everyday circumstances. Huh? I object. I bet he objects to what I said about his pants. But Andy asks what the issue is since there are no assets, so it should be relatively clean. To a rich man like Andy, this is like, you guys rent, like you own silverware and a few paintings. What? Michelle clarifies that the bigger issue there is that from her perspective, Jesse is angry she spent any money whatsoever during their marriage and wanted her to pay that money back. And he denies this, Jesse does. And she just says that he wanted her to pay him a lot of money just to get divorced and that there's a lot they could talk about, but she's not going to. As he says, no, we're going to be talking about it. Okay. But Brittany whispers to Andy, ask about the money spent on the wedding. And that is truly the most bizarre thing to me. If Jesse wanted this wedding, and if Michelle also wanted this wedding, who on the green earth, kind of green earth we live on cares? You both agreed to spend this money. Jesse, sorry that you were the sucker who did. It doesn't work this way, you asshole. And it's such an asinine thing to expect repayment for a freaking wedding. Truly, then every single set of parents who paid for some big extravagant wedding should be asking for the money back if there is a divorce that follows. Period. It's so spiteful and idiotic. Andy bites, though, and he asks about the wedding. Jesse says that the conversation he and Michelle had at that time was that because he was making more money than she was, he would be paying for the majority of the wedding. And Kristen just gets on with it that he wants her to pay him back for half of the wedding. Michelle claims she paid roughly 40%. But Jesse's like, no, it was $10,000 because he says, oh no, I sent a spreadsheet, all this. And oh my God, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, Andy, Cohen, and Nene leaks. Their 55-person wedding cost $150,000. On what? No. Why? How? What was the reason? See, this is what I'm talking about with Jesse. He loves to be like, I have money. Oh my God, I'm so rich. Now it's a back and forth on whether they discuss splitting the cost of the wedding or not. I don't care. Jesse concludes the whole divorce has been tit for tat with Andy saying, all right, just call it even. Even Andy's like, God, do you two ever shut up? So Jesse starts this whole monologue saying over and over, this week I spoke to my attorney and I want her, as in Michelle, to be able to move on with Aaron. My life is a mess right now. Here's the tiny violin. Oh, he's a sad little lolly. Please cry for him. I want her to be able to move on with Aaron. My life is a mess. And this week, I spoke to my attorney. And thank God he's being called out for being his own motherfucking attorney. He's like, well, no, I mean, I have a team. Everything with Jesse Lolly is a facade. Okay, there's just, oh, is there anything genuine to him? I question every moment I thought he was being real. Oh, God. Anyway, Now his girlfriend is brought up. And no, Michelle has no relationship with her, nor does she care to have one. And she actually did ask this girlfriend to stop contacting her and to just go ahead and cease all communication after everything this chick pulled last summer, which was this season. And remember the cease and desist and all of that crap. But Jesse claims that his girlfriend reached out to Michelle about a month after they started dating to find out Michelle's boundaries, mother to mother. Bitch, what? What? Mm-mm. Andy clocks that it was pretty effing early in their relationship to be reaching out to the mother of his child to be finding out what the deal is and what she can do to be involved with their daughter. Now, listen, I am a possessive, psychotic Scorpio. I'm so psychotic, I'm stuttering even thinking of this happening. Okay. I am absolutely the wrong person to give any input on this. I want to be so very clear. I should never give input on this because I am truly so possessive. However, a bitch, if you even think that is my baby, that is mine. It is animalistic. It is God, I really am insane. Anyway, so this is something both Michelle and Jesse had agreed would stay between them and be conversations only between the two of them. And that is anything that's involving new partners with their child. And that boundary was crossed not even a month after Jesse started dating this woman. And Brittany clarifies for Jesse that the two of them had agreed to not have anyone around Isabella and that Michelle didn't even have Aaron around her until much later. And that Jesse had been bringing this girlfriend around Isabella very early on. And that when Michelle wanted to bring Aaron around her, he said no because of the fact that Aaron was a man. Brittany points out this girlfriend was staying the night with Isabella, braiding her freaking hair and shit. So Jesse is the one that broke that agreement first. Ooh, okay. Wow. So Jesse starts off saying the other side of the story. I'm so glad you guys only got one side of the story. So here's the other side, which for him is that Michelle told him she'd never put their daughter in an unsafe position and will introduce her to whomever she likes. Okay. But Michelle adds that she also said she would let him know when the time was right and offered for him to meet Aaron or whomever it was beforehand. But that Jesse's reply was that she would never be allowed to essentially introduce a man to their daughter. He clarifies his stance is that he felt introducing a little girl to a woman who is already a mother is different than introducing her to a grown man without children. Oh, God. So he's not wrong, but he is also very much not fucking right. It is misogynistic. God, you know, he's such a prick. You guys, I'm trying so hard not to. Oh, God. It's like, it would be one thing if he were saying this from the standpoint of this girlfriend was there for dinner. Okay. This would be different. And then she went home. But this woman was staying the night there, braiding their baby's hair. Fuck right off. As another mother, you should have some respect and boundaries, you bitch. Okay, okay. I need to calm down. I'm so sorry, you guys. Shouldn't have called her a bitch. Maybe I should have, but I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, sorry. Um, don't cancel me over that. Maybe it hits too close to home because I've been through a divorce. So, oh my God. Anyway, he apparently doesn't believe that his girlfriend was ever saying negative things about him. This was, oh, yeah. That's brought up. Okay. Jesse doesn't believe this. Brittany tries to tell him that they were at a birthday party at Tom Tom and that this girl genuinely, and that Brittany does not believe. She genuinely does not believe that his own girlfriend likes him because she was talking so horribly about him. I mean, really? Jesus, it's almost sad. That's awkward. Eek. Jesse thinks Brittany's saying this is a perfect narrative for Michelle. That's just kind of silly and sad. Jesse, why don't you just admit, like, hey, maybe that's just a conversation I need to have with my girlfriend if that's the truth. I don't believe you to be a liar. So, okay. It's clarified that his girlfriend sent the ladies a cease and desist letter, not a lawsuit. And Jesse says that his girlfriend, didn't sign up for the show and get a paycheck the way Michelle's now ex-boyfriend Aaron did. But Michelle's pissed. I mean, these two, I'm sick of them fighting. Honestly, something about it is just so like, shut the up. But Michelle's like, Aaron did not take $1, which I believe, actually, because it's well known that not everyone gets paid to appear on these shows. That's a fact. More is said about how if someone is choosing to date a person that signed up for reality TV to share their own lives, they need to recognize they're kind of, well, essentially signing up for that as well. And it turns into how vocal Sheena was about that. And then Jesse claims that Sheena Shea called his girlfriend and told her that no one will like you as long as you're with Jesse. How does Sheena know everyone? It's wild. It's wild. Andy goes to Jax to ask the most obvious question, or I'm sorry, the question with the most obvious answer, which is if he thinks it'll be hard for him when Brittany starts dating someone and eventually introduces them to Cruz. He at the very least admits, yeah, it'll be difficult, as Brittany says that he starts fights with her every single day about who she is around. And Andy asks him why he believes he has jurisdiction over who she spends time with. Because also, I don't know if you noticed this, but to me, Jax appeared, in my opinion, very high on weed. And he is also, in my opinion, playing that narcissist card of being the good guy for the public so hard right now. He says he doesn't have a right, that he doesn't have the jurisdiction to do that to her. And it's just his mentality right now. Oh, zero ownership. Zero ownership. None. Blame it on the mentality. Okay, then. He has a therapist he goes to every Monday, and this is the first therapist that he thinks is finally working out. And oh my God, all our flashbacks of the multiple therapists, the Reiki healer, and all the shit he's tried to fix his psychotic bipolar narcissism. He admits that Brittany had been telling him for years to go to therapy, and he should have, and wishes he had gone sooner. Not that it necessarily, to therapy and rehab sooner, not that it necessarily would have helped his marriage, but to help himself. The answer is a resounding no, though, from Brittany when she is asked if she feels as though these Monday therapy sessions are actually helping Jax. And literally, there is nothing else she even needs to add to that. So, it's bad. We're now at Jesse, Kristen, and Luke becoming friends this year. And it turns out Kristen is who reached out to Jesse first. And he was touched by this heartfelt message she sent to him, which got his brain moving in the direction of wondering what he did to contribute to the fallout of their friendship the last year. So when he asked her to come over to his house, she was like, listen, I gotta go. I gotta know. It's pure curiosity. But when she says this, I'm very curious about the very odd look Brittany gives her. And it looks very doubtful on Brittany's end. And I'm curious if Brittany's looking at her that way, that it's like, oh, no, I know you were going over there to have this conversation with Jesse so that you could, stick it to Michelle some. And if you're sticking it to Michelle, you're also getting to stick it to Janet by proxy a bit. I don't know. Just curious. Kristen says that the thing that struck her the most in the conversation she had with Jesse was that she didn't realize how triggering some things can be for people. I'm sorry. Was that he said that to her? I'm sorry. And an example of that is when he slammed his hands down on the table when they were all just going at each other's throats at the Mondrian last season. Now, the flashback shows it kind of did seem to trigger Jax as well, which I will concede this. What we know from Jax's upbringing with his father, it's very likely. I have a feeling his father pounded his fists on the dinner table many times growing up. I'm not giving Jax a single excuse in hell because he's a grown man at this point, but it was pretty easy to see the look on his face. Kristen does say she felt that Jesse's apology to her was genuine, with none of the I'm sorry buts, none of that. When Andy asks Michelle what her thoughts are on Kristen forgiving Jesse and vice versa, with how they both decided to just move forward and be cool, she says she found it very ironic because she knew her before and what she would say about him, and that she believes Jesse calculated a plan behind this reconciliation and friendship with Kristen because in her mind, he knew it would get to Michelle. Kristen lets her know that Jesse actually doesn't speak poorly of her in front of her, and that if he did, Kristen's like, I would not be down with that. So Michelle thinks Jesse is actually just manipulating Kristen, but Kristen doesn't think she's easily manipulated. And here's another moment where I agree and disagree with someone here. Because listen, Kristen, while I don't believe you're easily manipulated, I also believe you can be manipulated when the empathy is coming into play because I think you love having a common enemy with someone, and I also think you love being there for someone when they're down. I mean, think of how you were with Stassi when just a year prior she had slapped the shit out of you because you had also slept with her sort of ex-boyfriend Jax, who is also across the sofa from you, but and is the ex-husband, well, sort of ex-husband of the best friend of yours who's sitting next to you as you're pregnant with your fiance sitting next to you. It's the incest. Anyway, I just I think Kristen just doesn't like to see someone who is going through it be without support of some kind. And I think Kristen loves to uplift whoever she sees as the underdog. And that's where she was coming in for Nia and Danny this season. So I think she can be manipulated into that, if that makes sense. Michelle's view and calling out of Jesse's tears is noted, and how she feels that he uses them to make her look cold and insensitive. She's just not the type of person who cries easily. And I used to be that way personally. Now, it doesn't take anything. But she says that Jesse can cry on command. And I mean, we do see lots of him tearing up. And she says it's easier to connect with a man who is crying and being vulnerable. I will give her that point. Okay. The misogynistic patriarchal society we live in, we tend to go, oh, it's a man who's crying. I hear her on that. I do. But also, I think she doesn't give us as an audience and viewers enough credit that we see Jesse is also a twat to her 90% of the time. Kristen does point out that the conversation Michelle and Jesse had in that finale episode, where he pretty much just relented and waved that proverbial white flag with her, that in Kristen's opinion was the most honest, real, raw conversation she'd seen him have. But Michelle actually says that things went south very quickly later on between them after that conversation that seemed like finally resolution. We're done. I mean, however, that does explain a little further that cut we got of her laying into him at that Zen party about how he wasn't even asking about her, how her own dying mother was doing. Anyway, Jesse says he's just always been a crier and that he'll probably cry tonight, with Andy asking if there'll be actual tears that are real. And Jasmine just gasps, going, oh, shady. Then we are over where Janet brings up the conversation that was at the beginning of this season that was between Jesse and Michelle, talking about trying to work out their schedule with Isabella and having one of their many tiffs and tit for tats about this, and how it had appeared to her that the second Michelle called bullshit over Jesse's tears, not getting Isabella for the holidays, that the little saltwater droplets seemed to suck right back up into his eyeballs. And okay, like, I do hear you, Janet. At the same time, there's also editing, because it cut over to Michelle saying that to him and it cut back over to him. I mean, come on. But Zach over at the end of the sofa just goes, we could say the same for you. Obviously, talking about Janet. So safe to say those two haven't made up. Jesse clarifies that this conversation about those first holidays that they would not be spending together as a family was what was really getting to him. And Jason just jumps into defense mode of Jesse, saying that at the time of filming, he and Michelle hadn't even been separated for a year. Jesse saying it was like 6 months of them being separated. So it would make sense to Jason that Jesse would be emotional and have tears in that situation. I agree. And I don't think that that was really the gotcha that Janet thought it was. You're going to have to try a little harder there, Janet. That stupid Gossip Girl XOXO boys chat is brought up, and it apparently started up at Schwartz's wedding all the way back when the guys were in like separate little cabins and trying to keep in touch. And according to Kristen and Brittany, this chat included photos of strippers' hoo-has and is predominantly a space to degrade women. Aw, because ain't that something more straight white men need? A safe space to degrade women. Gosh, wish we could come up with more safe spaces for them to do that. Zach was actually included in the boys' chat at one point, but it's only Jax and Jesse in that chat now. And Jax did kick Danny out after he spilled those beans. When Brittany and Jax were together, he apparently showed her everything in this boys' chat, which would include the shit Jesse would be saying in it. And Jesse just looks over at Jax like, thank you. Well, Jesse, as a great philosopher once said, say it, forget it, write it, regret it. Dorinda Medley. Words to live by. Brittany goes on that Jax would talk a lot of shit on Jesse and that she didn't believe that he even liked Jesse at all at that point, and that this boys' chat would have naked photos of girls and was nasty, which Jax pulls a Donald Trump, claiming it's all just locker room talk in this chat. And you know what? That, my friends, is why it's important to raise boys who do not believe in disgusting locker talk room being a part of the male experience. Okay. That having discussions and, trying to figure out navigating certain things are natural. They need to, and, need to have those. They should have those, but they shouldn't include bringing up things that are absolutely private or degrading of someone else. Now, Danny, breaking the first rule of boys chat, speaking about it, is what Danny moves on to and asks him why he told Luke about what Jesse said about Michelle sleeping with some billionaire for $1,500 a night. Danny swears hand to God that while he was having this conversation with Luke and their mics were on, Jesse and Michelle were the topic, and he claims fully it was wrapped. But Nia corrects him that he thought it was wrapped, and he says he didn't know a camera was behind him, but that's why he was whispering. But because Janet will not allow anyone who is, better than her as a human to breathe for even a second, she mutters to Jason, "We all know how mics work. He's an actor." Oh, fuck off, Janet. Jesus Christ. But Andy asks Jesse why he said that about Michelle and if he believed it. He claims he never believed it and he regretted it the second he said it. Then why did you say it, you asshole? Andy knows Michelle was really hurting from this. Okay, you can tell. And he recognizes that misogynistic prick move from Jesse for what it was, so he throws Michelle a bone. He asks her about declaring that Jesse spent all their money and is broke. Jesse is so egotistical that he's like, well, I seem to be doing just fine right now. But she asks him who is paying his rent at this very moment. I'm not judging, because in this economy, okay, but I do find it pretty bizarre that a real estate agent of what we're supposed to believe Jesse's caliber is renting a house like this. But okay. He forms his answer as a question, though. And I want that to be noted, okay? Because he goes, I am paying my rent, and I have been since you moved out. Michelle is on his neck asking who is loaning him the money then to pay that rent because he has none. If he's getting a $300,000 loan just to help keep up his lifestyle, because if he's not using that loan to pay for an attorney to help ensure they have an equitable and fair-paced divorce, mind you, then what's he using it for? Andy points out that Jesse even talked about the stress and overwhelm of his own financial situation at the Zen party, with Jesse saying it's just that simple equation of twice the expenses with now half the income. Well, no, it shouldn't be. It should be the same expenses, maybe 1.5, considering she would pay for some things and half the income. So no, because you're not paying for her stuff. Anyway, Michelle claims that during this discussion, and that this is what was discussed between himself and Michelle when she was moving out. But she claims during this discussion, he said he was never going to leave that home because it was his house, even though they both rented and paid the rent, but that he told her she could sleep downstairs and that if she moved out, she still had to pay the rent due to the lease agreement. And when she moved out, she was paying 2 rents. So here is Jesse's tell again, my friends, and keep it in mind. Okay. Anytime you're watching the reunion now. And this is how I believe 100% here that this was how it always went down with the two of them, him being dismissive of her, diminishing her, putting her down. Again, it was all Jesse's just looking at her when she stated a fact that she was paying 2 rents. And he just goes, okay, immediately back over to Andy. Like, I don't give a shit. Okay. That's exactly how you will know when Michelle has placed his prissy ass on the grill and cooked him right up in the moment. Now, Jax's, you want to know what I've noticed it is? He always looks up and to the right. Okay. Every time. He pretends he's remembering, but that's how he always does it. Now it's settled that Jesse was always just as douchey when he had his tongue pierced and no money as he is when he had more money. And dear Lord, Brittany had her tongue pierced at one point as well, too. I won't judge anyone. I won't judge anyone. I won't judge anyone. Okay. No judging. No judging. It's break at the moment, but I am fascinated by the back and forth between the pair that are truly two sides of the same coin, Janet and Jax, where she accuses him of leaking things, but he says he doesn't leak things about the show because that is different. Yes, you could get sued. He leaked it whenever she gave birth to her and Jason's son, which is so gross. It almost makes me wonder if he tries to get out from under people to when big life events happen to prevent them from getting money for giving exclusives to online publications. But in this case, it actually couldn't be that because no one was going to be paying Janet and Jason for an exclusive first look as soon as she gave birth. Now, listen, this is nothing against their precious child. He's very, very cute. And any new baby should be celebrated. Let's just also be very for real. But Jax accuses her of being on Reddit all the time and leaking things there. Oh, okay. Janet claims she doesn't comment. She only reads. So, okay, y'all. If you see anyone defending Janet on those subs, wonder who that is. We move on to Jax going to rehab and how at the top of the season, Brittany and Jax were separated, but talking about getting back together. And then their fight at the house is what set everything into motion. And the fight was started by the texts that Jax saw between her and Julian. So now I'm confused. I don't know, or am I? I thought that particular fight happened before filming and was off camera because the production was there for that explosive fight where Jax hurt Brittany and Cruz was in the house. Y'all know I love Bravo with my heart and soul, but I'm going to be very disappointed if he was allowed to finish out the season and he was just given the Band-Aid of going to rehab. So I'm really hoping I'm confused by the timelines. Okay. Andy reminds us that Lala had briefly dated Julian as well. And Brittany was with Julian roughly a month after she separated from Jax. And Jax admits that they did not actually set any type of rule regarding dating within their friend group. And also admits, yeah, duh, he had people at their house himself. And Brittany has had it with protecting him. And no matter how you feel about her, because I've been seeing a lot of people are pissed at her and don't like her. Whatever the reasons, okay, put that aside, separate it and focus on the fact that a woman who is a public figure is standing up, leaving an abusive relationship, and whether she is doing this and using her platform with the full consciousness that I would hope she is using her platform, okay, to allow other women to see they can, in fact, leave that toxic and or abusive relationship. Because if this love-struck Kentucky muffin can, honey, anyone can. She starts her list on Jax that he flipped out. And here's the trigger warning, my friends, okay, for any DV, abuse of any kind. This is your trigger warning, okay? That he flipped out throwing the coffee table that hit her knee, causing it to bruise black and blue immediately. He threw bar stools. Her heavy, if you've ever picked up a Stanley Cup, Stanley. Okay, anyway, her heavy Stanley and broke it. He threw her phone and broke it, threw her laptop and broke it, then threw her into the rose bushes. Fuck you, Jax Taylor. Fuck you. You deserve to have your bar taken away from you. You deserve to be fired from your job. You deserve nothing less than what is happening to you. Because then he tries to deny that. And she shuts his ass down immediately, saying it's on her Ring camera. And all of her close friends on that stage have seen the videos. So do not deny it, you absolute shit-eating garbage troll. And what I ask is where your, at the time, 3-year-old son was. You piece of shit that dropped out of Satan's anus. Brittany says she and Julian never dated. They just hooked up a couple times a week. And she does admit it may have been odd. She was seeing someone within the friend group, but like, whatever. I mean, truly, whatever. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? She says that, but with Jax degrading her, putting her down, body shaming her constantly, you did forget to add abusing you, but it's okay, babe. She got exactly what she was needing in that moment from Julian, which was to feel beautiful and seen as a woman, as a young, beautiful woman. But Jax you see what's happening here? He has to do everything he can to even take that away from her by saying, well, Julian was dating 5 other people at the time that was happening. And Brittany, yes, girl, yes, she's not taking the bait because she's like, I don't care. She wasn't trying to marry him, you dirty dog. She wasn't trying to marry another you. She was using Julian just as much as he was using her, you turd. She was getting what she needed at that time, and that's okay. As long as she was fully aware and she was in a place that she was like, this is what I need and this is what I'm getting, and I will say done and I'm safe about it. Good on you, okay? Brittany says what she has, I will admit, been saying on repeat. But with a man like Jax, you actually do have to repeat yourself 24/7 because the first 39 times you say something, no matter how simple the sentence, it doesn't sink in. She tells Jax he made her lose her sparkle, and he rolls his eyes saying, God, with the fucking sparkle. And he's all annoyed with her and the sparkle word and gives a glossed over BS. I know, I'm very, very sorry. But Brittany reminds him that after she gave birth to their beautiful son, he body shamed her for stretch marks. Oh my God. Y'all, let me take a break for a second because I need to breathe. I don't want to scream in your ears. Give me a second. Be right back.
Okay, I tried to take a breather. I sure did. Ate a little piece of chocolate because I deserved it. We all do.
Jax tries to deny that he body shamed Brittany for the stretch marks she gained while pregnant with their child. And every single person that is a friend of Brittany says that he absolutely did. Zach is one of like 4 or 5 voices backing Brittany up on this, but Jax only picks up on him and only picks on him to tell him, zip it down there. You know what Jax is doing here? He's trying to point out that Zach isn't in first seat or a veteran of this network, but that he himself, Jack's whole coochie tay whore, is. But Jasmine confirms they've all seen the messages, with Britt saying that Jax called her a tree trunk because of the stretch marks in a message. If he wrote that in a message, imagine what he said to her face that she cannot prove. Now, pay attention to this, my friends. After Janet tells him, why don't you start by saying you're sorry? He says to Brittany, he's very sorry, that this is the last thing he wanted anybody to see. Not that this is the last thing I ever wanted to be, do, or say as a husband, father, man, or human being. Just the last thing he ever wanted the public or anyone else to see. So there you have it. The narcissism is so blatant and so obvious. You don't even have to get your degree or pass a single test, besties. And also, besties, let me just say something about this to you. If you have stretch marks, okay, cellulite, no matter how you got them, have them, let me ask you something. What do you think when you see someone else with stretch marks and or with cellulite? I have a feeling it's rarely that you think, ew, that's so disgusting of them. I can't believe they ruined their body with stretch marks. They totally had control over that. They totally have control over the fact they have cellulite. No. So guess what? No one's thinking that about you. We're all so wrapped up in our own shit. And stretch marks are actually a hereditary trait that happens with whatever caused you to get stretch marks, whether it was gaining weight, losing weight, putting on muscle, losing muscle. However, you earned those stretch marks, it was for a reason your body needed to give them to you. I know I have cellulite on my butt, on the back of my legs, but do you know what? I don't spend time looking at the back of my body in a bathing suit. You want to know why? That's not my business. None of my business. Because quite frankly, if I was supposed to know about it, it would have been on the front of my body. And even a lot of the things on the front of my body, none of my business. Quite frankly, someone said, I saw this on social media not too terribly long ago, that part of what our issues with body image, with our physical appearance, with the body dysmorphia, all of that, we as humans were never supposed to be able to even see our own reflection this much. We were never supposed to have mirrors like this. We were never supposed to have phone cameras like this. We were never supposed to have cameras and video like this. Humans were seeing their own reflection in water, okay, in shiny surfaces. It wasn't like this. And it was not normal to be able to pick yourself apart like this. So just remember that it's because we're having to see ourselves that much more. It's because, quite frankly, you got to remember people 90% of the time are more worried about what you're thinking of them than what they are thinking of you. Okay. I have to tell myself that on a daily basis. And I mean that with my whole heart because, in the business, y'all know I've been in acting, modeling, done beauty pageants. I've done all of it. And somehow I've always had as healthy of a relationship with food as you can, as in, I love it. I will never stop loving it and I will never stop eating it. And that's who I am. And part of that is understanding for myself, quite frankly, no one gives a shit what I'm doing, why I look the way I do, unless I'm suddenly showing up looking completely different. And I had some sort of medical help. I'm going to share that because that's not fair to be like, oh, yeah, it's just water and sleep. I hate when celebrities do that. Water, sleep, and I use a little bit of retinol. Fuck off. Anyway, okay. So Brittany's extremely candid Watch What Happens Live appearance is brought up, where she said Jax was not good in bed. And the flashback was that she said at times, yeah, he might have been a 7 or 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, but majority of the time there was no stamina or energy. So it was typically a 2 or a 3 for her rating of Jax in the bedroom. And ouch. Well, drugs and alcohol will kill that a bit. And also, regardless, he deserves that. I'm sorry. But Brittany is already getting nervous, clearly, at how mad Jax is about this. And also, clearly, she already got her own ear turned inside out by him about this, saying she didn't say always that it was always that bad. But Jax defends himself by way of saying that when you're in a toxic relationship for that long, it's hard to have any sexual interest. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, when you are 90% of the poison in that toxic relationship, then yeah, I would imagine it would be difficult. Wouldn't it, Jax? Brittany says he didn't touch her for years and would put her down, and that they barely had sex the last few years of their relationship. So, of course, it's ridiculous that she'd in turn be like, yeah, he's great in bed. Oh, here we go. We've got the tiny sympathy orchestra for Jax ready to play his sad boy song. Ready? Is the mini violin queued up? Go for mini violin. Is it the saddest, most depressing sympathy song we can play? Yes, go. He admits he had pushed Brittany away for so long and did everything in his own power to make her leave him, causing so much pain and drama over the years that the alcohol and drugs were just the icing on the cake. Then allows that in his mind, the inciting incident for his true downward spiral was losing his job on Vanderpump. Then COVID hit immediately after that. And with Brittany being pregnant, he was freaking out financially because there was no income. And Brittany knows what he's doing and isn't going to just sit there and wait on him to tell this long ass sob story when they could get to the nitty gritty and the facts. Okay. Which are that he started turning on her during that time because she was the only one able to make the money at that point, and she was the breadwinner. So he was resentful. He was feeling like a tiny little man with a tiny little penis. Those are my words, not hers. But instead of being grateful, she was even bringing in money and supporting them. As she was pregnant and having just given birth, he was lashing out at her and angry at her. And he gives out the bullshit that as a man, he wanted to be able to support his family. I cannot stand that. Then contribute by raising your child. Contribute by doing the child care, you absolute fucking twat. I'm sorry. I got to calm down. Okay. Don't cancel me for getting so angry. I don't have anger problems like Jack's hole. Breathe. Anyway, Brittany points out that they were not in competition for who was making the most money in their household, that they should have been a team. He admits he was so angry after being dumped from Vanderpump that he didn't know where to place that anger. And Brittany's like, oh, I know where you did, on me. Apparently, Kristen even had to tell Jax, yeah, you have a problem. Brittany says that the Julian incident was not isolated and that she tried to make their marriage work for years because obviously she loved him so much and she feels that she's a very forgiving person. So every time he'd fly off the freaking handle, she'd forgive him because he'd be telling her, you know, I'm sorry, and promising her he'd change and get better. But also, baby doll, that is the cycle of abuse. She tells him he can't deny she tried for years and that he treated her worse than anyone else when she was the one who loved him more than anyone else, if she was the one who pushed him to get the help he needed. Andy moves on to asking what the custody agreement currently is for Cruz. And Brittany says she has full custody right now, but that with the divorce being finalized, obviously that's not, concrete. But when it is, she's going to let Jax have Cruz every Wednesday and every other weekend. And then, times like when she has something she's got to go do, like getting her nails done, she'll be letting him see him because she's not going to keep Jax from spending time with his own son. Oh my God. It's truly wild the way Jax will rewrite history for himself. It's almost astounding, isn't it? Jax tries to sound like a good, upstanding father here, saying that he doesn't want to uproot his own child from his home. Thank you, Brittany, for calling his bitch ass out on this one. She cracks up, reminding him that she was the one that had to take their autistic son, leave the house, and then bounce from Airbnb to Airbnb, all the while knowing how important routine and stability are for Cruz. And I'm going to be so painfully real here because that's probably where Brittany, and I know as a mom, as a parent, where it is probably one of the most devastating and guilt-inducing things for her, is that I wonder how much sooner they could have gotten Cruz diagnosed, gotten him what he needed in his home environment, gotten him the care, therapy he needed and settled if all the other bullshit wasn't happening that had her in constant survival mode, because she couldn't be doing that right then. She couldn't set something up for him when they wouldn't be staying. She didn't know if they were going to be staying in the same Airbnb next month. And as a parent, it is painfully difficult not to blame yourself, even though it's Jax's fault. And I guarantee you, she knows that with 1000% certainty, unwavering certainty, but she'll still probably have a massive part that she blames herself. And that is called being a parent. She says to Jax, your ego was so big that you made me and Cruz move out and then you didn't pay the mortgage for 7 months. But Jax then adds that he not only stopped paying the mortgage, but he also stopped paying the note for his car. and just let everything go. Just stopped assuming all responsibilities that were his. Wow. Okay. Andy asks Jax what prompted him to seek help from a facility, and here is where it's fully admitted. His job was on the line. This is rough personally to me and probably for thousands of other people, because did the producers see this footage of Jax doing these things to Brittany that we did see? Remember when I read those messages he sent her, those rage texts, when the whole group was in like Sedona or wherever it was, those rage texts, and it said from Jax all this business about him about her showing other people what I recall it seeming as though showing people these videos. And I'm praying that it was not then decided that they needed him so badly on this show that they just slap his wrist, put the Band-Aid on, and send him to rehab. Please, God, universe, whichever one of you ladies is listening. He says the show and his son are why he went to rehab, and that he didn't want to go, and that his job, he says that first, and then he says his son are why. You guys. Wow. Andy points out now that Jax actually went to rehab twice. So he asks him when it was he actually relapsed. And Jax starts to try and say it was 2 weeks out of rehab. But Brittany's like, no, sir. It was the week of getting out. And she also was starting to say it was like within 5 days. She also brings up that the problem was that at first he acted as though the drugs and alcohol were not the issue. And he now goes on his typical monologue of saying he doesn't believe the substances are the problem, but rather it's whatever is happening inside. And while he's half correct, and I hate giving him that, he is also very much half incorrect. Because yes, it is about what's happening inside, but using those substances and relying on them and your body becoming addicted to them, which also is a disease, it exacerbates the internal issues. But as of taping that day, he's been sober 156 days from everything except weed, which Brittany doesn't care if he does that. So when asked if she believes that he is sober from everything but weed, Brittany says she has a pack of 100 drug tests that she gives to him sporadically. And now Jax, I mean, I say for some reason he's trying to put her down in this statement by saying she's only given him a random drug test twice. But I think he's trying to make it as though she is somehow not the one following through on holding him accountable by only testing him twice. When you also consider the fact of what she likely has to go through with your sorry ass every time she tries to make you take one. Like, can y'all imagine trying to tell this demon, okay, Jaxie boy, it's time to take your random drug test. Hey, but don't worry, you'll get your results right away, unlike the SDT test you keep refusing to take. But she's receiving his results from his weekly, I'm assuming, drug tests, which of course, Jax will be attempting to take the credit for ensuring that Brittany gets the results of every time he takes. I don't know what it's about when it comes to who made those drug tests happen or not, but she jumps immediately to ask him, are you on steroids? He denies that, but I want to say something here. I don't know if y'all noticed that during the break, when Janet said to him that if you count the baby, all the weight she lost from baby weight and her little guy, it was 70 pounds total she was down. Well, Jax looked at her and said he had gained 35 pounds. So while the pasta habit being gone may have contributed to an increase in appetite a little bit, I highly doubt that's the only thing, because he's not looking like he's gained 35 pounds of fat on his body. And what would steroids help you gain? Okay. Yeah. So it's not just the rage that would have helped anyone question what's going on here and if it's steroids. But Brittany tells Jax that his attitude and behavior is so sporadic all over the place that if it isn't drugs and alcohol and all of that, then why is he still just as crazy as before he got clean? Jax thinks his anger has gotten better. And he asked Brittany, don't you agree? She's like, yeah, some days, but then others are absolute hell, you monster. Then she gives an example. That Easter of this year, during the day, it was great, fine, kosher. The next day, he picked a huge fight without cause, was going through her trash cans, her personal drawers, trying to find out if she'd been hooking up with other men, counting condoms. Oh my fucking God. Brittany goes ahead, good for you, and puts the name to it. She says he was extremely abusive, extremely aggressive, and he thinks this is going to save him, nodding and saying yes. What an absolute psychotic piece of shit that Beelzebub shat out from some bad Taco Bell. My God, I will not feel bad about saying that about someone who has had so many opportunities to do better. That is why I cannot go easy on this asshole. Jax wants Brittany to keep testing him, to hold him accountable. Hold your fucking self accountable. That's what a sponsor is for. That is not her job. Okay, calm down. Calm down. Okay. He's tearing up. He wants to stay away from drugs and alcohol because it's ruined his life. You ruined your life, but okay. He starts pulling the tears, saying it's so hard that he knows Brittany is the victim in this and not him, but that we should know he's a human being. Even though people think he's the devil, we should know he's a human being. You should have started acting like one 8 years ago then. Then maybe we would recognize you as a human. And it once again tells me absolutely everything I need to know, that he then wants us to feel sorry for him, that this whole thing is so hard to do in front of God and everyone. Well, honey, she has known what you've been doing this whole time. Brittany reminds him that he knew they were filming when he was doing all these things. And he says, yeah, I did. But this is why our show's so real, because I'm not thinking about filming as this is happening. Boo freaking who? Boo who? Besties. I made it through with, I think I only raged like 12 times, maybe 13. Okay. Not terrible. Thank you for joining today and listening. If you enjoyed this, and even if you didn't, do you know what would be lovely and so kind? Could you leave a little 5-star review for me, telling me what you loved about the show? That would mean the world. It's free to do, and it's the best and free way to support this show. Again, please, I say again because I say this every time, please go give me a follow on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's at Besties by Caitlin, Caitlin. You can check out the Pop Culture Besties Etsy merch shop. It's all designed by me. 99% of it is Bravo. And my friends, I will see you soon as all of the preparations are done for Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. They will be out and recorded. It'll be a long couple days for me when that happens. Anywho, friends, have a wonderful hump day, and I will see you soon. Bye.